Now to instance glass shards onto these scattered points, we're going to use our glass fracture that we set up already. So we can object merge that geometry in from week 7 glass fracture and that out glass fracture null. Now we're not going to want to use all of these glass shards for our shattered windows. We're going to want to filter and pre-process this a bit, but we've already set up some pre-processing in our week 6 debris setups, so we can just reuse that processing here. So let's go to our week 6 debris tests, and then go to the section where you set up your instances, and we can copy this whole section here. And we can go back to our shattered windows and paste in that pre-processing and hook our glass fracture up to that. Now I'll make a box around my instance setup to keep our scene organized, and we'll step through this processing. The exploded view is just making it a bit easier to see all the different pieces. And this first measure fracture, which filters out the big pieces, I'm actually going to bypass for now because I'm going to start by only filtering out the small pieces. Now to make this a little bit easier to see and work with, I'm going to display the next node, but that's moving everything to the origin. So I'll bypass that for the moment so that we can see all the pieces that we're left with. And then we can tweak that size threshold on this measure fracture to get just the size of pieces that we want to use. And when doing the size filtering, I'm actually not that concerned with the actual sizes. I'm really just trying to isolate some interesting shaped pieces. If you take a look at all of these small pieces, you can see that the smaller they are, the more sort of rectangular and less interesting they tend to be, which is why I'm really filtering out a lot of those small ones, and we're keeping a lot of the larger ones because those tend to have a bit more interesting shape. So I'll stick with this for now, and then we'll step through the rest of this where it moves everything to the origin, and then it sizes everything to that unit scale. And then this blast stop after that group was specific to the names in that debris setup, so this isn't meaningful for us here, so we can just delete that. Now it looks like these are some pretty decent instance shapes, but if we want to refine this a bit further, we can go in and do some deletion by hand, either at this point, or maybe you'd find it easier to do it just after the size filtering, in which case I'll drop in a null, and then switch this to primitive selection based on that name attribute. And then we can go in and pick the pieces that we don't want to include in our shard instances. Now I was probably a bit more picky than I needed to be, since these glass shapes will be pretty small in screen, but we have a nice set of instances now, and we can go ahead and cache these to disk. And we have this file cache stop from the debris setup that we copied over, but let's change this path. We'll go to our caches, and we'll set up a glass instances cache. And after setting that path, make sure it's set to load from disk, save current frame, and then we can save those glass shards to disk.